Hi guys, welcome to week 5 anatomy. Let's start our practical class. Alright, first and foremost, when you were starting with character design, right? So let me just start off with character design, right? So when you have a character design, first and foremost, like how you have it for your character design class and so on and so forth, you should have like a rough idea, or perhaps you have confirmed your character. Okay, so the goal here for anatomy is to train you to be well versed with character scales, proportion, right, and believability. Making sense? Right? There are a couple of stages in character design. You start off with silhouette, correct? You've got first you need to have sort of like a simple story. Alright? Story or persona. Right?
Yeah,
Right. Then from here, with this persona, you will do a little mood board. Am I right?
yeah,
Then from here, you extract and then you start doing your silhouettes. Silhouettes, as well as you can slash it or you can combine it with simple sketching. Am I correct? Then from here, you move on to do your value studies. Then you will add little ambient. So mood board is to capture. This is all the details extraction, right? After that, from mood board, detail extractions and so on and so forth, you're also looking at your color palette. Alright? After you finish that, it's sort of like making an art direction, a simple art direction. Got it?
yeah,
Okay, the ambience is practically this is an overlay of gradient and so on and so forth. Yeah, this is the big loud language that we're looking at, right? So you start from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then you finish this, then you do color, right? You paint, right? After that, you move on to cleanups. Okay, it can be line or colors, or everything comes in here. Cleanup, right? Then you can add some textures, correct? And
yeah,
then finally you polish. So final render. This is 2D. Make sense?
yeah,
Pretty straightforward, right? So this is the common step. We're not going to run away from this. Okay. For anatomy, right? Anatomy studies. This is where it will teach you the fundamental of solidity. Got it? Yes,
Yeah.
no? Yeah. So from here you can use forms. You can do your make sure that you use forms and so on and so forth. All that will come in under sketching and all that. This is where how do you want to utilize forms and blah 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 and so on and so forth. So character design, your class would have, your lecturer would have definitely, I don't know, should have covered all this by now, right? So the steps would have been covered by now. And now what you have to do is when you come to anatomy and character sculpt, alright? So anatomy by itself, alright? First is to ensure that you start off with skeletal drawing like this, alright? So based on your character, for instance, you have, you know, normally, okay, let's just go with the basic fundamentals first, huh? So normally when I'm doing drawing as such, right? So if I were to construct a character, I will start off with simple shapes like this, right? Sometimes it is hard for you to say how big, right? What is the size of what do you call my shoulder, my ribs, and so on and so forth. But then again, if you look at the reference that you're looking and has been given, right? So all this will give you a good understanding of how the mass is going to be and how far of a distance it's going to be and so on and so forth. So there is a couple of ways of doing it. If you're going to go by by the book, and if you're going to go like super rigidly looking at the usage of head, right? So if you say one head, so let me just look for this particular section. So it shows how many hits it is needed for a character and so on and so forth. If you're going to go to that extent, yes, you can a good practice like here. Proportions of a teenager not teenager, child, teenager and child, and then adults, male and female. Can you see?
Yeah.
Right? You can use this as a reference and to get a rough idea. Right? Can?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But this depends. If your proportion is not solid, okay, you may get it wrong as well. Because if the head is not solid, it's kind of like okay, it's going to be wrong anyways, right? So all I'm saying here is you have all these references that you can always look at. So by theory, these are the, I mean, by practice as well, all right? They've used this method where they have this head based on your character, all right, and build the entire form, right? This is based on your character. You can just build your proportion accordingly so it fits the your character. Make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So not somebody else's head. Okay. So these are for you to look at and refer to and understand. So maybe you're going to say 7.5 is for women and male as well. All right. And then it's like really really adult, or this is realistic like 7.5, and then you're going to go a little idle about the proportion, then you can go for 8 heads and so on and so forth. And each one of this head, as you can see, because it's symmetrical, all right, if you see the body, it is normally symmetrical unless if you have any distortion orders, or your character has sort of like some sort like an issue with the body or the birth. Then you may have a symmetric, different different shapes or different bulginess or and so on and so forth on the body, or something broken, then you may have a little different distortion. But by norm, both will have a symmetrical and pretty straightforward. You know, one head, two heads. So three heads here. One, two, three. Right? To get the distance between the shoulder to the chest core and then the neck shoulder. Make sense?
Yeah.
Can and so on and so forth, as you can see here. Right? Remember the arc that I was talking about? Right?
Yeah.
So these are the key things that you want to remember first before we go into the names of each and every muscles and individual muscles and so on and so forth. Making sense?
Mm.
Okay? Can see, yeah? Okay? Understand it. Do not memorize it. You get what I mean? So you see, you have to look into this and say, any of these references when you're looking at it, and you kind of like, first you evaluate. Is it true? 7.5? You calculate and see. Then it makes sense enough. From your body. Right? Making sense?
Yeah.
Alright? You evaluate. Once you evaluate, you are then finding, you are registering the information on how to create your character and how do you want to utilize it for your character and so on and so forth. Am I making sense? Yes? Yeah? So that's why it's about looking at the references, not just blindly looking at it. Okay? How do you want to utilize it? Okay? When I see this, I'm not going to go and study every single, what I call the name of my muscles and so on and so forth until my tendon, you know, my micro stuffs and so on and so forth. You get what I'm trying to say now. I will break it down to big forms. So it's like, okay, this one will hold up to here. And then what are the forms that is forming the shoulder, right? And then eventually to the, to my bicep, tricep, and so on and so forth. Can you see? Or the big chunk, the big loud, what do you call? Components that you're seeing as in silhouette. Making sense of it?
Yeah.
Right, cool. So once you have that in mind, then you slowly break it down to micro details, right? If all this, if you straight away want to do the chest and straight away want to do the, you know, um, all your abdominal muscles that you want to have, it's not going to work, right? So the first thing that you're seeing is you break into big chunk. Can you see the big dark line? Can you see it?
Yeah.
That is the big thing that you want to capture for silhouette. I'm just going to go up. You can open this book. I'm just going to go up and find the other component. See, this is already quite. Where is the other book? You know the one that I passed on to you guys, right? The book, the fantasy. Yes, no?
The blue cover one.
Yep, yep. For
Yeah.
fantasy. Where is it? I don't know. I have to. Um, I need to go and find the book, but anyways, I think I have. Oh, this one. Anatomy for fantasy artists. Yeah, you can even look at comic book. Yep, look at the way that they draw. Correct? They don't go to this straight away. They will tell you, they are explaining to you, but when they draw, if you see a professional artist and so on and so forth, you just draw down. Let me see. Okay, they start with this first. Okay, so the skeletal study is important. The reason why we are telling skeletal study is important is because the structure, skeleton, is where it gives you the believable structure. You understand what I'm trying to say? Okay, so if you are looking at a structure, right? So this base, or the base of the head or the skeleton, okay, that is holding your mass, won't run much. Make sense? Won't
Yeah.
run much.
Yeah.
So it's going to just hold it. See? Simple. Keep it simple like that first. This from here, you were asking just now, how would I know how long and where is it going to, you know, stop and so on and so forth, right? Where do you, how big it is and so on. That one depending on the amount of workout that you're doing for the character. Am I making sense? Right? So what does skeleton do? Skeleton is going to be the base, the foundation. Okay? Skeleton. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right? With this now, if I'm going to take this, right? I have now first 10 have found or have identified what is the distance, or how would my uh, is that enough space, or you have already do the landmarks of where and every mass is going to start and stop. Make sense? And proportionally it is fine. Okay, what I mean? Yes, no?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So from here, if you're saying from this skeleton, I'm not asking you to do this, huh? All these rib cages and all that. That one later, if you want to study further. But in a very simple form, once you have that, say, this kind of character. So first thing that you are identifying is the stability, right? Or you are doing the landmarking. Okay, if it's not stable, then you shift things around. Make sense or not? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Right? So like this character, it is coming a little diagonal, not super straight. Over here. Maybe now it's already shifting and going to drop. And here it's easier for you to adjust. Making sense or not? See? Yes, no?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is to make sure that your character is believable, or in terms of this proportion, and it's stable. That's the whole idea of anatomy. Got it? So you can
Yeah.
Yeah.
adjust from here. And once you adjust here, then it makes sense for you. Okay, if I'm going to do the volume around it. So if it's a human, male or female, right? So female will have its own skeletal, like the size of the pelvis may be slightly wider, or the chest might be slightly wider, and so on and so forth. But that is just to stably hold the character, like how you see in 2D drawings, or stop motions. The claymation, yes, no?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yes, no? Right? I'm just going to copy all this. For claymation, this is what they do, right? They do this character skeleton. After that, what they do is to add, let's go for this, the volume. Just go for, correct or not? They will add this. Okay. So the chest is one part, one box. You can break the hip into three. Now clear? This is
Yeah.
also, and this is how you start constructing. It's like constructing a house. Am I right? If you don't have a foundation, you won't know whether the whole body is going to be holding on stable or not. Making sense now?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is how I start drawing. But once you get used to it, you'll be faster. Can see? Simple shapes first. So the same idea that you're going to apply in ZBrush. Can see? Now you're seeing whether the the proportions of this making sense or not. The chest, whether it's holding it properly or not. Can see what I'm trying to say here? Correct?
Yeah.
Right? So when you're saying, when you were asking how would I know how big it is and so on and so forth, that depends on your character design. You get what I mean? So if this character, the the skeleton is going to be the same, right? Your foundation, when you start drawing, the skeleton is to give you, imagine it's like a claymation, huh? Like claymation, right? When you look at clay, when you're building a clay, when you're sculpting, you will have a skeleton on a stand. Am I correct? Yes or not?
Mm.
So these are all wires linked. So that is your skeleton. Making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah? So once you get this is just a foundation whether to hold the character in proper knot. Right? And what you're doing is, in our sculpting, you're using the basic form to create or to landmark. This is landmarking. This is first is to build the structure. Okay, once you build the structure, you then add your basic shapes. This is to identify volume, mesh volume. Alright? Then after that, you're going to go for what? Then you combine and add details. Am I making sense? Then only you start doing same thing. I'm going to go for this dude. Can see, guys?
Yeah.
Is it making your life easier? You know this process already?
Yeah.
Am I wasting your time?
No.
Yeah. So the reason why I am telling this is so you can make sure that everything is done in an easy. You can see from easier method. You understand what I'm trying to say? Okay. So from here, this is where you start adding on the details. You're forming. Okay. You are now doing your land marking. This is big land marking. Adjustments and land marking. Okay. This is where you add. Land marking mean where is the cut that's going to be. This is a can see how big is the muscle. Where's the cut is going to be? My shoulder. Can see?
Yeah.
Right? So where is my mid is going to be? So if I'm coming in, I'll start doing this. So, up, I'm going to add. Can see? This is what I'm doing. Right? From here you can see already whether the volume makes sense or not. Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can see now. And from here you can see what is the cut. Because the muscle, right, it's going to come in like that. Correct? It's going to hold from here to here. And then the front is going to come in like that. Correct? Right? Going to muscle studies. So it's going to be all this, going to have all this, details. Correct? You can just cut to be simplified. You're not going to draw every single, your muscles from your thighs and so on and so forth. Unless you need to. You get what I mean? And then you do the mark here. So how does your, um, say, your calf is going to form? How big is the muscles, the volume? The skeleton is just holding it. Can? The skeleton is just holding it. But the mass can be either widen up, right? Correct? The distance here determine how big you want it to be, whether you want to have exaggerated muscles like this because you worked out so much. The bones is going to be the same, almost the same, depending on which area, which zone. If you're coming from the Asian country, around the Asian countries, you may have almost similar, the average body structure or bone structure is going to be almost same. If you're going to go for Europe and all that, it's going to be different. Am I right?
Yeah.
In terms of bone, so the bone is just a kind of like a structure that is almost similar to most of the you know human population that you have in that particular region. But the mass depends, because that is the basic is given to you, and the expenditure of each and every component, it depends on what are you doing with your body. Whether you're going to lift up weight, you're going to carry weight lifting, correct? If you're weightlifting, then you will see the muscles are lean. Making sense? When you're not doing anything, you're just eating, then it becomes fat. Correct?
Yeah.
Right? When you are fat, what happens? It then pulls. Correct or not?
Yeah.
Right? So when it's lean, it is all intact. Making sense? Okay? So when it's lean, this is lean muscles. Right? You can see, I'm breaking into big chunks. Big chunks. I'm not going to go to details yet. I'm not going to go into this. Yeah, I have six pack. Forget about it now. Now look at big chunks. You can just break it. I use all these cuttings to, all these cuts that you have here is to ensure that the positioning of how much of extension of this muscle is going to come out here. Making sense now? And all these are landmarks. Okay? So once I have this, the next one is, if I'm going to evaluate, this guy has a different structure, or he's a fat dude. And then what you have to do is you start building lah. You know? Evaluate. You can see what I'm trying to say. Nice. You can see? And this is where you start adding. If he's fat, okay, if there is anything that is pulling from here, then there is a mass like a balloon, right? You see balloon, right? Yes, no?
Yeah.
You put
Yeah.
water in a balloon, what happens?
Yes. Drop.
Right? So it pulls, correct? It will follow the gravity. Correct, it will react to the gravity. Am I right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yes, no? Yes, right? So when there is a gravity, a little physics lah, huh? When it's reacting to gravity, what happens to the mass? Instead of being super round, instead of being round or solid round, if there is anything inside, if it's not air, if it's water, example, a little bigger mass, right? So it will then pull the balloon down. Make sense?
Yeah.
When it's pulling it down, so you will see this one is no more round, it becomes oval. When there is something holding, correct? It becomes this way because it's reacting to the water, correct?
Yeah.
Simple, huh? Makes sense, huh? And when this happens, that's where you see the shape of this, instead of round, it becomes more bloop, like that, like that. See? Zoop, it falls. So when there's fats around things, then you see the stomach. I'll just reduce this. You'll see the stomach then, like that. correct? It will sag because the muscle, these are the sagging areas. Am I making sense now? The mass muscles will hold. This is the mass muscle, the solid muscles. This is the fat. Fat normally will show in this green, orange. Can see ya.
Can.
Now make sense? Right? So all I'm saying is I'm trying to cover things as much as I can in a very summarized manner. So skeleton is holding the structure. And then identify mesh volume, which means you're using with basic shapes. Alright? To ensure that it has, how much of volume or the volume that you want to add for each and every sections. Right? In a nutshell. Right? And if you close your eyes and you can see, the entire silhouette. Correct? Yes, no? Correct. Right?
Yeah.
Then you're coming to mesh adjustment and then adjustment and landmarking is where you start landmarking whether it is properly cutting in and it's making sense or not. The bending is nicer and it is believable plus it's exciting. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right? Then you move on to this one is your kind of like hacking and slashing, or you're adding more persona. So if it's fat, it's fat. This is fatness. So this one you can call it as a balloon that represents fatty volume. Okay? Or mass. Okay? So you get the idea now? Can you?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? So now translating from this 2D, right? Translating this to 3D. So what do you have here? Right? I'm going to go here. First and foremost, you go to quick save, delete quick save. Always do that. And now let me just initialize. Okay, I'm going to show you first, quick one. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up any ZBrush. If you want to use Z-sphere, you can do that as well. If you want to. Have you tried Z-sphere? You want to know Z-sphere?
No.
No.
No. Do you want to learn Z-sphere?
Uh,
Z-sphere has this kind of points. Okay, I'll just show you Z-sphere. Okay. Let me just show you Z-sphere, just in case. Okay. I'm going to rotate this, lock it down. I'm going to off my perspective. Every time when you're doing your proportions or your skeletal landmarks, you can off this perspective first, right? So Z-sphere is practically, you can, the moment you create, this is what happens. You press A to see whether it's going to be in in a full mesh format. Then you press A back again. This is where it kind of like, it will be represented with a sphere and sort of like joints, like ball joints, right? And then you can go ahead and then add your meshes around. See, I can give skeletons. Okay, Q, A is to see the mesh, alright? So Q is to start. Right? You start drawing. This is another way you can scale it. Okay. this is another way of doing things or adding your meshes or building your skeleton. You all find this easier? It take a little time if you want to learn about Z-sphere. Okay, but Z-sphere is sort of like it gives you a different take of creating a character, slightly different as opposed to the Dynamesh. Dynamesh is quickly you can just hack things and so on and so forth. Here Z-sphere you kind of like you need to understand, okay, this is the bone structure, this is where it's you're doing a landmarking on the entire character and so on and so forth like that. So the chest is going to be here, you have to go back and forth, see whether it's making sense or not. Okay, you can see. So this is another way of doing things. If you find it very difficult to start with, what? Your Dynamesh. You just have to move. When it's too near, it becomes like that. So all this ball that you're creating now, it kind of like gives you the joints. Okay, it's very useful, but sometimes you know you may not use it as much. Depending, I use it sometimes when I get very cluttered. I use this. Before, when during the first time or when in early days of ZBrush was there's no Dynamesh back in those days when we first started around 2005, 2003, and so on and so forth. It was not as dynamic with Dynamesh and so on and so forth. It all started with Z-sphere. Okay. Everything has its own power. So you can do this. Base, you finish the base and press A. Easier for you?
No, how do you stretch it?
Okay. But okay, before I go back to stretching, so is this easier for you all?
I don't think so.
You prefer Dynamesh?
Yeah.
Yes? So I just want to let you know this is also another option. So if you prefer with Dynamesh, then I'll just focus on Dynamesh. Okay?
Okay.
Right? So how do you stretch it? Just to cover a little bit so that you guys can go back. Press A to go back and forth. And it's going to be the consistent of ball here, these spheres, and then A is full mesh. Okay, how do I stretch it is by moving. Can you see move tool? So you just hold on to this big ball here. See the white color, the grayish color is grayish color is how much practically it's kind of like it's like a bone system, I would say. What we had, how I showed you how to do the structure here, right? The big white color is the joint. The one that you
Oh,
have segments, it is in between. You can see,
yeah.
right? So how do I stretch it is practically these are the mean. It always starts from this big red color or the white color ball, right? So from here, this is the parent of everything. So can you see? It shows you in this manner. If I click once, can you see? It's like a bone.
Yeah.
Alright. So when you're working with these bones and so on and so forth, it becomes the parent of the next child that is going to be created from it. So how do I stretch it is by first is you can move the ball around, right? See, just move. Hello, hi, bye. Get what I mean? You can move it. You can scale things. So you hold on this only the joints for now. Okay, you can scale it. You have to click it once, then you have to scale it like that. Can see? You have to click on the white color or the big ball here, the main parent. Can see?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering, girl. Sometimes it's very tiring. So you can move things around the big ball. In between here, you can't really move. It's just a projection of its, how is it going to join. So this point from this point to this big point, in between here, it is showing it in gray because when you press A, it will form or it do the bridging. Make sense now?
Yeah.
Alright, cool. Alright, so that's what it's doing. So it will take a little time for you to understand how is it joining up and how is it forming this whole, you know, character and so on and so forth with Z-sphere. Right, moving is one. If you were to join or if you want to add in more, okay, if you want to add in between, you just have to click once, right? Say in between these two joints, right? So this is the big point. You all understand that, right? One point to another. You see this round and you see this round and you see this tapered in between, the bridging. So
Yeah.
if I want to add like bone in between, you just have to click right in between here and you can have another breakdown of your bone. Make sense?
Yeah.
Right?
But how do you expand it?
Extend it, meaning
Expand the ball.
how do I extend like that? Or how do I move it?
Expand.
Expand like this.
No.
Expand, add some more, add some more, add some more.
Uh,
How do I draw on top of it? Like that.
no.
How to
Just make it bigger.
make it bigger,
Yeah.
longer.
No.
Bigger in the sense of if I want to make
Your
it big,
the head.
The
the
size.
the
Yeah,
head
the
size.
size. Yeah.
If I want to make it or if I want to add some more, extend it. So adding more. Adding more is just painting on top of it. If it's on draw, right? So say you see when it comes to green color, the radical become green, that means it's in the center, right? So if I create something like that, right? Now I have a different head. So you have to quickly move once you have created, quickly move to move tool and then you can just move. Oop, one, two, okay. I can extend this or I can move this aside. You can see I press A, this is the head,
Okay.
right? I press A. So this, if you want to add more, you can add something like that. So every time you can just add in some faces. You can see if I press A, it will give you a different form. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
If you don't want this or if you don't want certain components that you have already added in, you press alternate, click on it. By draw, click on the ball. I can delete the head. You can see now?
Yeah.
Right? If you want to draw, go to the center, draw. This is the neck, bring the neck up. Example, right? Adjust it. You want to move left, right, right, left. Okay, you can hold shift. Right? Hold shift is to snap directly straight. Okay, and then you want to add more, so you can press Q right in the middle, Make it slightly bigger, move it, and you can even add some more. So for instance here on the same ball you can add another one. Okay, you can drag it upwards. Okay, like this it is going to have overlapping. Okay, that's fine, because later you can, when you press A, see that it may not give you a good result. Try to avoid this. You rather draw from the ball that you have, like that. Okay, can you all see what I'm trying to do here in a simpler method?
Yeah.
Okay, so once you have this in mind, right, now you can go back and forth to adjust the proportions if you want to. You want to add in between here for shoulder, go to press A or press Q, just click here. Now you have a shoulder. You want to have chest, press Q, right, make sure you're in here. You can just add here. You can break the locks accordingly to how you want it. You can see?
Yeah.
Don't want this, press Q, off it. So once this landmarks has already been adjusted for you, or given a rough idea of how the entire look of this big shape can be, so you can put this under your subtool. Can so your skeleton can be this for your proportion. Making sense? Now can you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes it will be difficult for you to just look from here, but this can be helpful. See, from here I'm going to lock off this perspective. From my side view I can straight away see whether this is now all making sense or not. In terms of it doesn't need to be perfect. You just have to start off like that. You see, this is the feet, this is the knee. This one probably you want to just adjust it accordingly. Later for rigging you need this now. You can see? So this will be helpful for you to add on or make your proportions correct. Okay? That's it.
Yeah.
Then you press A if you want to leave it, and you can just straight away sculpt on it. Right? I go to draw. Now you sculpt. This is another way of doing. Since it's very difficult for you to see from the other angle, you can start sculpting. You see? I'm adding in straight. Okay? Whichever that you don't need. You see? And I can use the move tool, make it little dynamic, and adjust. Okay? Draw size slightly small or big, adjust accordingly. So when you're doing landmark or when you're doing rough out or block out, right? Don't be a hero, go and do all the details straight away. You understand? Yeah?
Yeah.
You come in, you can adjust accordingly. See? You can smoothen it if you want to. Okay? That's it. Smoothen, add some landmark, pop, pop, pop. The eyes, do that. Okay? Adjust the size for the move. adjust it accordingly, and so on and so forth. Get the peak shape. Go for clay brush. Start doing. This is the mouth. This is the face. Example, This is the ears. Did it? Okay. And go slide. Okay. And landmarks. I'm gonna have this. You can do that. Okay. Can see?
Yeah.
This is another way of doing it. So muscles is coming from here. Then you got the want to bring it in, perhaps that. Okay. Once you're happy with this, then you can take your move tool, make it slightly bigger, and adjust. He drops. His chest is a bit broader. Okay, maybe this is not enough, and so on and so forth. Don't spend too much of time. Okay, to be very precise and need to have a super good result. Yet, you understand what I'm trying to say? Spend your, the quality amount of time when you're doing your polishing, and once you have already identified your structure. Making sense? Can see now.
Yeah.
Is it fast
Yeah.
now? Can you all do this? Try this out
It's hard to adjust the size.
for the sphere.
Yeah.
You meaning? I press A. See, I cannot. Discard changes. The size of this. So,
Yeah. The spear.
okay, go to scale. Click on it.
Oh.
That's all you're doing. You can go diagonal or you can go up and down, up and down. But you have to click on the ball here. Okay, there's a couple of ways of doing things. All I'm saying is I'm giving you an option, right? So here, as you can see, if if you finish this, if you press A, right, this is just giving you a geometry. So under geometry here, if Dynamesh, oh yeah, it's already given to you. So you can be a Dynamesh straight away. You can even do a Z remesher. Can you see? So there's a couple of ways of doing things, right? So you can go to a lowest poly and then start sculpting. All I'm saying is make sure that the proportion is correct, right? See, 10,000. So you can Z remesh some more. Low poly, work with low poly. The reason why I'm asking you to do low poly straight away is because when you're building this, right? See, you're just landmarking. This is landmarking, right? Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that. You're just trying to get the flow first. How everything kind of joins in and so on and so forth. So this is the hit. You're doing the big landmarks that you need to add for your character. See that? Can I? If you're starting with the ball that you started, right? With the dynamasphere,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're gonna start with that sphere, that's fine as well. So you can start from the head and then move on. That's another way of doing things. So there's a couple of ways. You find the best options. Am I making sense or not?
Yeah.
Okay. So once you have identified all this, then you can go ahead and then start building your characters in a faster manner with a more reasonable look and feel. Can you see? Now better? Then of course you go to perspective, you see from perspective view, is it making sense or not? Got it? Get what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? You can use the trim dynamic, you can trim it however you want. Landmark it. Now I got the hit, correct? See? You may say that sir, you know how to do things because you have already practiced. Yes, of course, I struggle too. I'm not going to say that straight away I got everything right. It's not. But my fundamentals was a little stronger. So to pick it up, it was faster for me. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing landmark. Okay? It doesn't matter right or wrong. I'm not going to go look for, hey, the the body needs to be, the muscles need to be straight away correct. No, I'm looking at big stuff, right? So done, done. Then you go ahead and then sculpt your details. Make sense? Easy peasy. Think as
Yeah.
simple as possible, right? Then you go
Sir,
again. Yeah.
how do you stretch the gray parts again?
How do I stretch it? So which means I drag it from one to another, right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. Use your move tool. Pick the ball and then drag it. Just hold and pull. Can?
Okay, got it.
Alright? Okay. So you can see, yeah? So this is one way of working. Is it helpful now? You have to try it and see. Okay? And do the landmarks and see. The face is here. You want to move it down. Huh. Right? Then only you go ahead and use your pinch brush lah, damn standard lah. Get this. This is the muscles that is popping up. You see? You see that?
Yeah.
This is just chinchai. Look at the proportion that I have and how easily you can come out to this level. Just do the cuts. So here, this is where your bones is going to be portraying. I mean, it's protruding outside, right? Correct, correct. You can use a pinch tool, or you can use a damp sander, or you can just use a clay brush. Oh, you have that. Okay. Reduce the resolution a little bit. Make it as have fun. So you're slowly building or topping up. Okay. You get what I mean? You're slowly topping up the muscles over your bones. Now you understand what I'm trying to say? Can I, guys? Oh, not bad, huh? Okay. And see, you just have to cut. Make it bigger, drag it. See, for the leg, I'm not even asking for you to do all the tools. Forget about the tools for now. I mean, if you can do it, it's great. You can see? So if it's not right, if let's say you have already come out from um, Z-sphere, in here you just have to go and do a mask. Okay, click on it, right, to soften it. Again, click on it to soften. Do that, and take a rotation and rotate. Okay, doesn't matter. Later you can adjust. That's why don't do details here. Do this, right? Then after that you have finished. Then move on to Q, and now take off certain components. Click on the mask again and again. Paint over. Alternate to delete it, and move this guy from here and rotate. Oops. Drag this pivot here or the gizmo, right, and rotate. Done. You can see. So now your character is stable. If you don't line it, be like this. So go to left. You want to have it sharp, right? So what do you have to do? Control, Shift, click on the clip curve, right, and cut it. Done. It can be a shoe. Make sense? Yep. This is what you're supposed to do. You don't need to go and do straight away. You get what I mean? Before you go for detailing, you don't go and do all the time. You want to smoothen things, right? You can, it takes time for you to practice, right? For you to understand ZBrush. It's not overnight you can do things, but you get what I'm trying to say now. You have to train your eyes. Okay? So whatever you want to add, see, you can just add on, move it inwards. Now it's like a cartoon. Okay? If you want certain areas to be bigger off your perspective, make sure you off it. Okay? If you want it to be a bit more stretched out, so like here too short, you can just have to add this. Drag it. Thank you. Done. Perspective. That's why you do block out first. Make sense or not? Okay? So now can we get the proportions in proper? Can you all do it? Alright.
I'll try.
Alright. So now if you see from side, It doesn't make sense, right? So you go here and, you know, make sure it's Dynamesh resolution. You can reduce it. Okay, do some a little sculpting on top of it, and then just do that. Okay, now it's already low poly. Okay, pop, 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 done. This is how, if you look back at, if you look at professionals and all that, they'll do the same thing. Of course, different guys or those who are seasoned, they'll be faster, lah. Right? You don't go and compare to them. We are learning. You guys are learning. Right? If you're professionally so good, so savvy, then you won't be coming here already, right? So first is to identify how the whole thing kind of like flows and works. Can or not? Right? Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? So I want it to be, I'm expecting the proportions to be properly. Then I'm not looking for super crazy characters which has every single muscle strands to be, you know, flushed out and so on and so forth. I want you all to get the flow. Make sense? Can you all do that? So the flow is coming like that, how the cut is, right? How the fold is coming in and so on and so forth, right? The big shapes. Can? Yeah?
Yeah.
So you don't need to go and do all these big muscles that you have to have, like, oh, this is the, of course, ideally you want to have this, but it's not now yet. Okay? Be styled. Use the stylized version, right? Because not everyone likes realism. Am I right? And slowly with low poly like this, then slowly Control D is where you start adding in your what? More meshes. Control D again. Okay, this one will divide it and it will give you more volume. And this is where you start adding in details, right? Identifying where is your the tendons and so on and so forth for this coming in. You can see. Oh, not bad. So yeah, understand, huh? Yes, no?
Yeah.
I hope it's easier now. Slightly. You get the idea, right? And then you take your time.
Yeah.
Sorry? Sorry,
Uh,
girl?
I just said yes.
Oh, okay, okay. But you get the idea, right? So once you are savvy with this, then you can go ahead and do creatures. You can go ahead and do all these nice characters outside there. But before that, know the flow first. Got it? That's what you want. It's not about you great, I'm great to show that, hey, only I can draw and all that. It's not about that. Got it? What I'm trying to say. It's never about me. It's about you. Right? So that's what we want. You must know whether it makes sense or not. Okay? See, that's why we lose. Sometimes I'll get into detailing straight away. It's normal. We all are human. But you have to come back to reality check. Okay, right? So can you all please look into your characters back again and make sure you know it is properly laid out. Okay, can you do that please? All right, so that's it for today. Any questions?
Uh, how do you how how do you do the ears with its two thin?
The
I
years.
forgot. Yeah, I forgot the step.
Okay, for years normally like for like this kind of characters and all that. For big shapes is good, right? For the big structure. For ears and eyes is normal. End of the day, this is what you're gonna do. Either you can draw it straight or try not to draw it straight. What you can do is for now you can insert under subtool. You insert a sphere, a cube, whichever that works fine. I'll just go with a sphere or cylinder. Okay, bring a cylinder, drag it, right? Squash it first. Any form, again, any form that is simple. Drag it over or drag it to your left. Make sure it's on left. Rotate it, holding shift, perhaps. Rotate it whichever way that's okay, right? And then once you're happy with this or the shape, reduce it, drag it, drop it at the location. Example are the ears is as big as this. Yeah. So you want it to be somewhere here. What you can do is you can go and bend it over, so which means you can go to other geometry deformation and bend it. For now I'll just use what I have now. Or drag it somewhere here. Okay, I'll get the shape, the cups and so on and so forth once it's already there. And maybe I'll just shift it outwards. Or before I shift it outwards, I just want to do like can also shift it outwards like that. Right, and then you can use the move tool. Right, hack it first. You can see now?
Yeah.
Right, drag it. Example, the examples. Drag it first. Don't worry about the look yet. You want to see the big form, big form. See the cups, how the cupping is happening. Yeah, you can see. So say you're happy with this now. You can even make it slightly smaller. Say somewhere there. This is just for demo purpose. It may not be right. So say you have somewhere like here, and then Q like this. Zoom it out. Right. What you can do is go to geometry, modify geometry, mirror and weld. I get 2, right? And then what I can do is go to subtool, click up here, go to merge, go to wait. Where's the merge? Hey, subtool, merge lower. Oh, cannot be. Okay. Anyways, go to geometry and what's this? Hey, hey, missing already. It's supposed to be there under subtool. See? Merge, right? You can merge visible. Or you can make sure this is on. You can drag and drop on top of this because this is not was not polymesh 3D just now. That's why you couldn't see that option, this merge option. You can just merge visible. So now, or merge down. So okay, now this two will be one. Okay, and this happens. Okay, when you're using cylinder, I'll use sphere if I can. Alright, when you use cylinder, this is what happens. See that? That's bad. So what you can do is you go to geometry, couple of steps now. Z-remesh, click on Z-remesh, it will then remesh for you. Okay, now it becomes more quad. Shift F to see. You can see now, right?
Yeah.
Then you can go to Dynamesh and on Dynamesh. Okay, Dynamesh, make sure the resolution is slightly higher, or you can just leave it for now because it's a blockout stage, right? And so on and so forth. If you happen to have this kind of issue, you can see, kind of like, right? Then
Yeah.
you can always cut this improper. So this one will come later, right? You can do half, or you can do you can leave it like this first. You can do a Dynamesh first, right? And then you do a 3D measure. You can do this as an example. So it's the other way around. Okay? So 3D measure is not going to give you the best result because it has read this, it's not reading it improper. So if you have an issue, maybe you just want to delete half of this example. Okay? So you smoothen this first and so on and so forth. You can keep groups, or you can keep freeze groups, void up, same, 3D mesh, try and see what happens, and so on. Okay? Ken?
Yeah.
Any questions? Now it's better. See?
Sir,
Yes.
control and click the ball to delete, right?
For which one?
What? The sphere.
Oh, the Z
Con
sphere.
yeah, control and click the sphere
No, no,
and
no.
delete.
Alternate and click on your draw. When
Okay.
you're on draw, so it's like Z sub lah. This is adding ma, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Right now it's adding. If I do alternate, it's kind of like minusing, so going the negative way, correct?
Okay.
Right? So that's what it's doing. So you add in and then you add out. Make sense? It's always the total opposite. Right? So now is it helpful? Okay, try it out and see, please. Even if you're doing with Dynamesh, what you have now, you can work on it. But if it's too much, or too, what they call, taxing to do things, or if it's just not working, you can just do it. You can start back fast, right? Which is you're going to do for your project one. You get what I mean? Right? So the one that you have done so far, that is for your exercises. Clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have, you have thrown in and added, you have tried. The goal is to try the software, to try the understanding, to apply it, right? Then to make mistakes. Exercises, you must make mistake, which is good what you have done. But mistakes is not like too obvious ones, lah. Like like this is, it's extremely, like it's not following the flow. It's not giving a good volume and all that. Then that's bad. You get what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, let me just be very clear. You are not doing hyper realistic human, right? our goal is to get the understanding of anatomy and so on and so forth and apply on your stylized character. Can?
Yep.
Alright? So I will, I will end the recording now. Yep. Any questions before I end it? Alright, cool. I believe everyone